Thank you for a nice introduction. And now I will start the presentation. And first one is the role of data sciences for the diagnostic of COVID-19. Actually, we are currently facing the COVID-19 situation. This is a very pandemic here. In that case, we will utilize the data sciences in the different areas. Either we go for the drug discovery, either we go for some vaccine design, some contact tracing, like that way. Data science will be utilized in different fields to combat the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Next one is the economically as well as the socially as well as in some our pharmaceutical department. Thereafter, the role of the data science in the COVID-19 situation. Then we will discuss about some diagnostic of the COVID-19. Either we go for the chest X-rays will be there. Either some hello, my voice is audible and
Yes,
hello.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Either we will go for the chest X-ray, just either we will go for the chest CT scan, and now we are working on the MRIs as well as ultrasounds images, in which we will apply the data sciences techniques so that we are able to classify the different patterns, and based upon these patterns, radiological patterns, we are able to identify whether that particular patient is either COVID positive or COVID negative will be there. And beside these, we are also working on whether the particular patient is either viral pneumonia or not. Like that way, we will cover all of these things in our diagnosis of the COVID-19. Thereafter, the drug discovery and how we will apply the data sciences in the drug discovery, because till now we are not able to succeed to design the vaccine, because designing the vaccine requires some understanding of the structure of coronaviruses. After that, we will decide yes, that particular structure is available. Thereafter, we will go for some drug design and vaccine design will be there. And thereafter, the smart robotics will be there. In smart robotics, that will be utilized in the different area during this pandemic situation. First, we will go for the data sciences. Most of the times, the data sciences is nothing but is that will be get the information of the machine learning, statistical algorithms, probabilistic algorithm will be there. Like that, it is a collection of the machine learning as well as the probabilistic algorithm will be there. Some programming will be there. Some statistical analysis will be there. So, like that way, that will be the kind of the different techniques. And data science mean we will able to extract some meaningful data from the variety of tools. Either we will go for the automatic tools, either we will go for some algorithms and some, for example, machine learning fundamental can be utilized. Most of the time we will either go for the ADA boost will be there. Sometimes sport vector machine will be there. Like that way, data sciences that will be utilized the different tool, and these tools will be inherited from our the machine learning criteria. In that case, we will data science domains or programming will be there, because we will have to write the programs, and most of the times these particular programs that will be from our the machine learning and deep learnings, as well as some artificial intelligence algorithms. And thereafter, we have to analyze the data, and for that we will require some statisticals. And in that case, we will visualize the data either in terms of some graph form, some table form, some reports will be there, and thereafter we will utilize these pattern in our business demands. And when we go for the data sciences, uh, and when we say that the fields of data sciences, and that the data sciences is actually, this is the whole big umbrella will be there. In the big umbrella, there is the artificial intelligence will be there. Within the artificial intelligence, then machine learning will be there, and thereafter the deep learning will be there. When we say the data science, it is the big umbrella. Under this umbrella, AI algorithms, AI techniques will be there. Thereafter, the machine learning that will become under the umbrella of the artificial intelligence. There, when we're talking about the deep learning, in that case, we will say that deep learning come under that is a subset of the machine learning. When we again explore the deep learning, in that case, we will say that deep learning is the convolution neural network. When we again explore the convolution neural network, that will be divided in the supervised and unsupervised deep learning techniques will be there. When we again go into the deeper of the supervised and unsupervised, we are able to find out the transfer learning. And most of the times when this pandemic situation is there, in that case, we are not able to design the new deep learning architecture. Just we utilize the transfer learning technique. It means that some pre-trained models will be utilized to solve our problems. It means, say, for example, we have a lot of the deep learning architectures will be theirs, and when we apply the data sciences in the different field, in that case, for example, VG16 will be available. Similarly, VG19, DenseNet 2001 will be there. ResNet will be there. Some already well-defined structures will be available. There is no need to design the models because we have not enough time to design the models, and thereafter we apply these model in our the COVID data set. In that case, we will be utilize the transfer learning, and most of the times when we read the articles, research articles, in that case, the 90% papers are mostly published on the transfer learnings that come under the deep learnings. And when we say that the data sciences, it means that we will extract some knowledge or some hidden patterns using some different techniques and tools will be there. And these tools and techniques will be either inherited from the artificial intelligence, sometimes machine learning, and sometimes deep learning will be there. When we say that the artificial intelligence, it means that this is a technique which enable the machine to predict the human behavior. It means we will design our machine that will be intelligent and then behave like a human. And artificial intelligence technique is not a newer thing. There is a 1956 when the AI will be come into the play. But now the due to the development of the new algorithms and hardware devices, we are able to uh, come into the play AI, and that will be utilized in our practical application. Next one is the when we go into the deeper of the artificial intelligence, that will come the machine learning. And when we discuss about the machine learning, most of the people that will take some algorithm. Sometime they will take the data boost will be there. Sometime they will take the SVM, and that will directly apply some. They will take some data that apply the SVM, then some output will be generated, and that will be not analyzed. What is the behavior of the data? Either data is a convex shape, concave shape will be there. Sometime they will not identify the behavior of the attribute. Either the attribute that has a binary will be there. Sometime mixed will be there. Sometime real data will be there. Depending upon the data set and data, we have to choose our machine learning techniques. But nowadays, when we are go for some BTech projects and MTech projects, the students are blindly applying the machine learning and deep learning techniques, because when we always mention that algorithm will take some input value and that produce some output values. When we give some input, that will always produce some output values. But when we give the wrong input value, that will produce the wrong output. In that case, first we analyze the data. What is the behavior of the data? After the analysis of the behavior, then we have to select the appropriate machine learning or deep learning technique. Either we have to go for the machine learning, either we have to go for the deep learning. For example, when we have to go for the machine learning, in that case, when the small data is available, when the large amount of the data is available, in that case, you have to go for the deep learning. But most of the times, we will see that when data is very low, in that case, people will be also apply the deep learnings. But we always says that deep learning is mostly depend upon the data. When more amount of the data is available, in that case, your deep learning algorithm will provide the better results, because deep learning is data dependent. Similarly, again, for example, deep learning will always depend upon your hardware also, because most of the times we have to go for the GPU. When the people are also working for the machine learning. People are getting for the be run on the GPUs, and sometime parallel execution will be done. But you have to check whether there is a requirement of the deep learning technique or not. Based upon your requirement, you have to go. You have to choose. Either you have to choose the machine learning technique, either you have to go for the deep learning techniques. And some particular confusion come in your minds that deep learning will take a lot of times. But deep learning technique will take a lot of time during the training time. When we will train some model, in that case, it will take more time as compared to the machine learning. But when the particular model is trained, after that particular machine, that will take the less time. When we will, for example, when we train the models, and after training, when we perform the testing, in that case, deep learning is much faster as compared to deep learning is much faster as compared to the machine learning techniques. So, depending upon your applications, you have to check whether you have to go for the machine learning and deep learning techniques. When we will say that the machine learning, it means that that is a subset of the AI techniques, and we will mostly go for some statistical methods so that we will improve the machines. And when we go for the deep learning, it is again the subset of the machine learning. Deep learning is nothing a new thing, because before we will utilize the artificial neural networks, and we will not extend the artificial neural network in the previous time, because at that time GPU will be not available. We have to thanks the GPU. After coming the GPU, we will be extend the hidden layers. When we increase the hidden layer, in that case, that will be able to capture the granularities, or we can fine define features from our images, and that we are able to identify some important patterns. Okay, so deep learning is nothing. This is just, we will say, this is a old thing, and we have just increased the layers, and after increasing the layers, we have just incorporated some functions, like we will apply the softmax will be there. Sometime we will apply the ReLU will be there. Some activation function that will be utilized. Okay, so deep learning is just is a subset of the machine learnings. When we again decompose the deep learnings, that will be the supervised will be there, and unsupervised will be there. Like that machine learning, in machine learning, we will say that some supervised machine learning will be there, and unsupervised machine learning will be there, and reinforcement machine learning will be there. Next is the data science life cycles. First, before apply the data sciences in any applications, you have to check the requirement. What is the major requirement? After the requirement, you have to acquire or acquisitions of the data. And most of the times, either we will take the data from the user rating. Sometimes the comments will be there, call history will be there, some particular uh, data we will be capture. After capturing the data, when we have to go for the pre-processing, in that case, we will be removing some noisy data will be there. Sometime missing value will be say, there, and sometime redundant data will be there. In that case, data pre-processing, we will be eliminate that particular missing value and noisy data, and sometime the redundant data will be present. After that, you have to go for the data exploration. It means that you have to understand some interesting patterns, and that will provide some meaningful data. And before the data explorations, you have to model your data, and based upon the finding the some optimal features, and based upon these features, you have to build the models, and you have to evaluate the models. And these machine learning model, or either we will say get deep learning models, thereafter we will be optimize the performance, either in terms of their performance may optimizations, either we will go for some access method. Like that way we have to optimize. So these will be the six different modules will be in our data science life cycles. Next one is the supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning, and some application. For example, we will mention that your machine learning will be categorized into the three means categories. These are the supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. When we say that when class labels is present, or when we say that some instructor is available, and on the presence of the instructors, when the child is learn something, that is called a supervised learning. When we will say that sometime some class label is not present, in that case you have to train your models based upon their similarities, and most of the time the clustering is known as unsupervised learning. When the some particular teacher will be not available to train the student, then this is the unsupervised learning will be there. Reinforcement means that is work on the reward and punish points. When particular objective is achieved, in that case you have to award that particular point. When particular objective is missed, in that case you have to punish, or you have to provide the penalties. So like that way, the machine learning will be categorized into the three main categories. This is the supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. And most of the times, when we have to evaluate the risk evaluation, forecastings, and vigilance will be there. In that case, the supervised learning will be utilized. That will be called as a classification. And unsupervised learning means some recommender system will be there, some anomaly detection will be there. For example, when you go for the Netflix, when you search some particular song, after some time that particular song will become into your watch list. So So unsupervised learning that will be utilized, some recommender systems will be there. And when we go for the reinforcement, in that case, the self-driving cars and gaming, that will be utilized, the reinforcement learning. When we go for the deep learning application, the self-driving car all the particular that will be with and deep learning techniques. The self-driving car will be utilized. Similarly, for example, you have to automatically image caption will be there. In that case, the deep learning will be utilized. Similarly, voice control devices will be there. In the Apple, most of the voice control assistant will provide that will be work on the deep learning applications. Similarly, the automatic machine translations. There's a lot of applications where the machine learning can be applied. We just show that four applications. Next, you have to when you have to go for the deep learning. In that case, you have to require the different software and hardwares. And when we go for the software, either you have to go for the TensorFlow, and sometime we will go for the PyTorch. PyTorch is developed by the Facebook, and TensorFlow that is developed by the Googles. Similarly, you can go for the Kairos will be there, Tinon will be there, and MATLAB will be there. But MATLAB is very lag behind. Most of the time, we go for the PyTorch, and Python will be there, and sometimes we are recently utilize the Kairos. And these are the software that will be used to build your deep learning models. And beside these softwares, you have to require some hardware also. And we will mostly go for the GPU with the high number of the CUDA cores will be there. And most of the times we will always say that at least your 60 GB DDR4 will be there, and your solid state hard disk is required greater than the 1 TB to handle the large amount of the data, because deep learning is work on the large amount of the data. When data is very small, then there is no need to go for your deep learning. In that case, the machine learning is capable to solve the things. Next one is the today's environment. We will always fear from either the militants will be there, either nuclear explosion will be there. So these are the fear actually when we living in our worlds. But these fears are not actual fear. The main actual fear that is fear is the biological, like that in these situations we are already fear from the coronaviruses, and most of the countries that impose the lockdown, and each and every sector is greatly affected from these viruses. And we will not say that this particular virus is the first and last virus, and this is just we will say this is the start of the journey will be there, and most of the other viruses may become in near future also. So the actual fear is your virus will be there. When we coronaviruses in when we go for the COVID-19, in the COVID-19, this is the coronavirus disease, and this is the viral pandemics will be there, and this is very serious threats. And that will be first case that will be reported in the Wuhan, China, at the end of December 2019. Thereafter, the World Health Organizations entitled that the disease caused by the coronavirus and renamed as the COVID-19. And in the 11 March 2020, that particular coronavirus is declared as a pandemic will be there. And now that particular coronavirus is also known as the SARS CoV-2 will be there. This is another name. And when we say that some particular person that is infected from coronaviruses, in that case we will always check the symptoms. And the symptom is fever. 98% person that is affected from the fever. And after that we will analyze that 76% patients that will have symptoms of the cough. Next to 44% that fatigue will be there, some headache 8% will be there, diarrhea 3% will be there. Besides these symptoms, sometime we will say that the noise blockage will be there, loss of the taste, loss of the smell will be there. In the now at times we will also analyze that due to the coronavirus, brain hemorrhage can also be occur. So there is a lot of the symptoms will be there, and a lot of the serious disease can be also after the post-COVID effect will be occur in our human bodies. Sometimes we will also analyze that, for example, you are affected from the COVID and some antibody will be created. But after we will say that 4 or 5 weeks, these antibody will be start to decay. And when again you are infected from the COVID-19, in that case, that particular antibody will be not regenerated. So there's the serious problem will be occur after the COVID also, and there is a need to assess the severity of the COVID-19 after the post COVID-19 disease. That's when we have estimate some severity of the COVID-19 patients. We analyze that 0 to 19, the fatality rate is very low. When we increase the distance in the, for example, age will be increased. In that case, fatality rate will be increases. In that case, we will always say that old person is avoid to travel from one place to another place. So most of the times, the old person that will be reside in your home, because the old person are always infected from some disease. Either they will be affected from some diabetes, some affected from the kidney problems, some heart problems will be there. If the person that will be that have some medical histories, and in that case the COVID will be greatly affect your human bodies. And most of the times we will say that hard immunity is required. If hard immunity is there, in that case you are able to fight the COVID-19. So these are the some parameters in which we realize that yes, age will be affected or not, and some gender will be there, like that with some. And the role of the AI, or we will say data sciences for the COVID-19. In that case, first you have to analyze the risk assessment. For example, some patients will be there, and uh, yes. For example, you have to access the risk assessment of the different patients, and you have to prioritize the patients. And when, for example, some particular person, which is you have to analyze the you have to analyze. Yes.
Sir, you carry on, sir. I've muted the person.
Okay. For example, some particular patients, that particular the patient is affected from the COVID-19. In that case, you have to analyze whether that particular patient is serious or not. For example, some particular patient is very serious. In that case, you have to admit into hospitals, and the particular severity of your disease, you have to find out some patterns. In that case, respiratory patterns will be there, and based upon the respiratory patterns, you have to analyze whether that particular person and is on the risk or not. If particular patient is on risk, in that case you have to admit, you have to give the priority of that particular patient. Next one, the data sciences will be utilized for screening and diagnosis. In screening, most for example, in the Babylon mobile apps will be first Babylon mobile app will be generated for screening the data, or sometime will content tracing will be utilized. And next one, the data sciences will be utilized for the simulation and modeling. For example, the in UK that will develop first, they will not follow the social distancing, but after the Imperial College of London, they developed some model for the pandemic estimation. In that case, they developed the model of SEIR. SEIR, S means the susceptibility if exposed, infected, and recovered. And they, after analysis of SEIR models, and they have to put the constraint on your peoples that you have to follow the social distancing. And similarly, some simulation models will be developed. In that case, that will be analyzed. Yes, that you have to follow the quarantine rule or not, or either you have to follow for the some social distancing. And for all of these things, that will be used to stop the disease transmissions. And beside these, that will be also utilize some we will say that resource management also. In the resource management, it means that you have to utilize proper utilization of the hospital beds will be there, and you have to proper utilization of the ICU will be there. Similarly, some proper utilization of the ventilators depending upon their demands. You have to first predict how much demand will be required in a particular region. Like that way, we will go for the pandemic models will be there, and some simulation models will be there. So similarly, the data sciences will be also utilize our contact tracing. In the, we will see that South Korea that will be go for the contact tracing. In that case, they are able to contain the outbreaks in the South Korea, because they will follow the contact tracing. First will be identify the infected person, then they will be check their contact tracing, and thereafter they are able to maintain in the containments of your COVID-19. and sometime we will be utilize the different technology. Either we will go for the flu phone. This is the one mobile app that will be utilized. Next one is the blue dot will be there, that will be utilized for the contact tracing. Similarly, for example, we have to utilize the data sciences for understanding some social interaction. It means that we have to monitoring some misinformation that will be put on the different social medias. When we go for the Wikipedia, that will be contain the lot of the misinformation will be there, and based on these misconceptions and misinformations, the situation will can be out of control. For example, one misinformation will be the deployment of the 5G, that will be the responsible for the COVID-19. In that case, some particular event happen in our UK. Similarly, we will also find out that some particular website that will mention that vinegar is important for the hand washing. So most of the people go for the vinegar for the hand washing. So like that way, some misinformation will be also available in the social medias, and for that case, some data sciences will be utilized to identify the incorrect information and then take some necessary action. Either we will remove some content, either we'll take some legal action. In the Italy, they will develop our lab to identify the misinformations, and they will be eliminate the misinformation that will found in your web domains. That will be the Comuni lab will be developed by the Italy. Next one is the data sciences that can be utilized in the logistic planning. In the logistic planning means based upon the separate of the, we will say that COVID. In that case, you have to, the requirement of the mask will be increased, and requirement of the gown will be increased. Similarly, the testing kit and ventilators. Or based upon these, you have to plan your all of these items, and University of Cambridge that will be utilized that decentralized data to predict the ventilators. So we will be utilize the data sciences in the logistic plannings, and beside the logistic planning, data sciences can be also utilized for the economical intervention. It means that data sciences is used to identify some optimal economical interventions at the higher level, and in that case company can identify a particular false that will be present in the market, or we will say that behavior of the customer in this epidemic situation. Based upon these, they can be decide their policies. And similarly, we will data sciences can be applied on the automatic patient care will be there, and we will say that in the Alan Turing Institute, they will be developed the D-COVID project to detect, to estimate the clinical data, and based upon these, they will generate some clinical reports and the requirement of the different clinical items. And during this particular, we will say that automatic patient care center. It means that, for example, one patient come in the hospitals, and after some recoveries, you have to rapidly discharge that particular patient, and thereafter you have to take care of that particular patient at a home through either telecommunications or some video conferencing or some other methods. Like in the USA, that have spent 20 millions dollar funding for the telehealth organizations, so that their health can be managed at their home. And next one is, we will say the data sciences can also utilize in the vaccine discovery as well as some new development. So there's a lot of the role of the data science in the COVID situations. Next one is the role of the data science in COVID situation. First, we collect the data from the COVID. Either we have to first find out the structure of the COVIDs, and after the COVID data collections, we have to also take the data. Either clinic data will be there, some genomic data will be there, some epidemiological data will be there. After taking these data, we have to manage the data, we have to process the data. Then you have to put either in the artificial intelligence, or we will apply the machine learning, either we have like the deep learning techniques. Thereafter, you have to take some actions. Either you have to go for the particular patient will be very serious, and in that case, you have to admit in the hospital, or there is some possibility that you can take care of that particular patient at a home also. So based on these, some preventive measures can be taken on. And role of the data sciences, we have already mentioned that a lot of the fields will be there. And most of the we will target in the four main fields. First one is the recognize or diagnose the COVID-19, thereafter the predict the COVID-19, thereafter the smart robotics will be there, and smart robotics for sanitization we will utilize the robotics. Similarly, the robotics can be utilized for the medical purpose, and they will be utilized as a nursing staff. And thereafter the data sciences that manage the social economical impact also. Okay. Next is data gathering systems. When we require some data, it means that we have to collect the data from the different sources. And most of the times, the data science tool, or we will say AI-based tools, that we will utilize to collect the data from the different sources. And based upon these data, you have to either develop some the validation systems, and you have to visualize the data. And based upon these data, you have to go for the logistic planning thing. Either you have to go for the automated patient care, or either you have to go for the contact tracing, like that way. First one is the validation system, data visualization, COVID-19 data sets, and data 19 sources will be there. This is the four main category of the data gathering systems. First is the vigilating, or we will say that earlier alert system will be there. In the we will always say the vigilant system, and earlier alert system, that will be the contact tracing. Mostly that will be utilized in the contact tracing. And first one is the blue dot will be there, that will first developed by the hobby country. In that case, there is a mobile app will be there, and standalone. Both of these will be there, and that will be utilized the infectious disease vulnerability index. After that, USA that will develop the health map, that is the mobile app will be there, as well as the standalone application will be there, and most of the time that will be utilized to the location tracing, and Bluetooth will be there. And one country that will be contact with the telecommunication department, and based on the healthcare and telecommunication, both are the perform the collaboration and work. In that case, the location of a particular patient can be identified, and based upon the location of their call records, we are able to identify the contact tracing of a particular patients. Similarly, the RT Live will be there. USA developed the RT Live, that is the mobile app, as well as a standalone will be there, and some statistical methods will be utilized in the RT Live. Thereafter, the UTHA that will be healthy together, that will be utilized. The Bluetooth will be there, and there is a mobile app. Based upon the that will be utilized. Some questionnaires will be there. Based upon the questionnaires, will be identify that particular person is a COVID positive or not. In that case, particular patient is a COVID positive. In that particular scenario, you have to check the contact tracing of that particular person. Next is the trace growth. Trace together will be there. The Singapore developed the trace growth, and it is very secure, and privacy is maintained. In the another particular mobile apps, the security and privacy is a major issues. Like in the Arogya Setu, first the Arogya Setu is developed, and lot of the question which arises that either it is secure or not. So after that, the telecommunication department and similarly that will be also provide the hotspot area, either you are present in the hotspot area or not, and that will be also produce the notification if you are come under some particular infected person. So in that case, the Arogya Setu, that is the particular vigilant system will be there. Next one is the data visualization system. Most of the times we will go for the data visualization. It means that every day some infection will be there, and some recovery will be there, some death will be there, and in that case you have to require some dashboards. So the different country have developed some different dashboards will be there, and the dashboards are again divided. We will say that either some global dashboard will be there, and some local dashboard will be there. Locals means that particular dashboard is related to a particular country, or we will say that particular region and particular city. And when we say that the particular dashboard is global, it means that that will provide the information about the whole world. So in that case, the data different data visualization system will be there. And first dashboard is the that John Hopkins University will be there. This is the first dashboard that will be developed during the COVID situation, that will record the global informations, each and every countries. They will mentions that yes, infected persons has beside these some particular recover values. Each and every particular statistics will be present in that case. The infected cases will be show. It also show the recovered case. It also show the death case. Beside this, it also mentioned that test conducted. This is the first particular dashboard will be available. That will be also provide that test conducted. That will be not provide the information about the discharge and daily changes. And beside this, in our country, we are go for the COVID-19 India dashboards that will be provide the infected, recovered cases, but we will also not provide the discharge as well. Daily changes will be there. But in the COVID-19, that is South Africa, that will provide the discharge, daily change, beside these tests conducted and infected, recovered, death, each and everything. So there is a lot of the different data visualization technique. Next trend will be there, BBC will be there, New York Times, Health Map, Big AI Tracker, COVID-19 Data Hub will be there. So like that way, some different data visualization, or we will say data dashboard will be available that will provide the data about the COVID infected persons. Next one is that COVID-19 data sets and resources, because you have to apply the data sciences. In that case, some data set is required and some particular repository we will say that required. So that we are able to apply the machine learnings, or either we will apply the deep learning techniques. So we will able to perform some predictions, or we able to diagnose the COVID-19. In that case, the four type of the data sets will be available. That is, the text will be there, social media will be there, biomedical and research repository will be there. So four different types of the data set will be available. Text means some reports will be available. Based on the reports, we will be able to analyze the data. So like that way, similarly, social media will be there when the data will be posted on the Twitters, and some other media will be there. Similarly, the biomedical, either some we will say that the chest X-ray, chest CT scan. So like that way, we will collect some data. Similarly, some research repository will be there. So we will take a lot of the data from the different sources. First, we will say that the text data set will be available. For example, you have to apply the text mining. We will not go for the image minings and something else. When we go for the text mining, in that case, you go for the text data sets. And text data set will be available on the WHO global search database will be there. There's a lot of the data will be available about the COVID. Similarly, the text data set COVID-19 open search data set will be available. Based similarly, the let COVID will be available and AI COVID-19 will be available. Or these are the text data set in which the images will be not available, only text documents will be available. If you go for the text mining, then these particular data set will be available to perform some mining in the text. Next one is the social media. Social media play a very important role in this epidemic situation, and in that case, a lot of the information is posted every day in our social media. For example, at a one particular scenario, we will find out that in Instagram, approximate we will say that 60,000 posts that related to the COVID-19 will be posted on the Instagrams, and beside these, for example, 60,000 comments will be received. There is a data of the end of the April, and now the data is very high in the Instagrams. Similarly, when the different data is available, either we will say that the COVID-19 Twitter, this is the one data set that contain the all the Twitter that is related to the keywords of the COVID pandemic will be there, N95 and coronaviruses. So all of these particular content will be stored in the COVID-19 Twitter. Similarly, Twitter COVID-19 tweet ID will be dataset available that will contain the information about the social media. Similarly, the COVID-19 tweets will be there. COVID-19 real world worry will be there. COVID-19 coronavirus news articles, and similarly, if you have to perform some analysis of the infomedic will be there. Infodemics means when you have to analyze the miscommunication or misinformations. In that case, you can apply the different machine learning or techniques on your the television coverage also, because some particular coverage that will be also provide some meaningful information, some that will provide unmeaningful values. So in that case, you have to analyze. When you go for the social media, in that case, that particular data set will be available for the analysis part. Next one is the biomedical. In that case, we have to require the X-ray data. Similarly, chest data will be required. Similarly, we have to require some particular medicines, so that we can apply these particular medicine, and we will develop some new medicines. so that will be counterattack the coronaviruses. So first one is the chest X-ray data set that will be available in the Kaggle. Similarly, the COVID-19's survival calculator will be available. And similarly, some United Against COVID that will be present, that will be again contain some pictures of the COVID. Similarly, the COVID-19 data clearance in house will be there, and the Data Health Drugs Discovery Institute that will be contain the particular compound structures, molecule structure will be present, and next one is the compound 19 antiviral compounds will be there, that will be contain the antiviral data will be compound data will be present in the COVID-19. So these are the biomedical. Thereafter, the some online repository will be available. Based upon these online repository, you can apply the data. First one is the GitHub will be there, Kaggle will be there, James Hopkins. We have provided the online repository. Similarly, we will say that the S2O.ai will be available. That will provide the online repository. An online server will be available. Beside these, all of these data, you can also check some COVID-19 competition. In the COVID-19 competitions, that will be conducted by the Kagels. And the first one is the Uncover COVID-19 will be there, in which a lot of the techniques will be participate in the COVID-19s. Similarly, there is the COVID-19 global forecasting. This is the one again, some COVID-19 competition will be there. And so there is some competition will be available, and from this competition you are can able to take the data, and based upon these data set you are apply your deep learning techniques, and thereafter you can perform some predictions, and some diagnosis will be there, and thereafter you can also check the post COVID effect also, and now you can also check the severity of that particular COVID-19 after the treatment of the COVID. Next one, we go for the screening the COVID-19 patient. When we go for the screening method, in that case, we will say that first we will go for the face scan will be there. You have to scan the face, and during the scanning, we will either go for the thermal camera will be there. Based upon the thermal cameras, we will say that we will check the temperature. Sometimes China that will be developed some drone, and that will be fitted with some infrared cameras, and that will be detected the body temperatures. But that particular infrared cameras, when some particular face is covered by some material, in that case body temperature cannot be calculated properly, and sometime variable devices will be there. In the variable devices, we will either the fit bit will be there. In that case, the body temperatures, beside the body temperature, blood pressures can be we will be predicted thereafter the oxygen levels, and heart rate. So these some devices will be available, and based upon these devices we are able to predict whether the particular patient is infected or not. This is just the guess of after the reading of these, we will just predict whether that particular patient is affected or not. Okay, and next one is the AI enabled chat set will be there. AI enabled chat set, it means that some chatbot will be available, and based upon the chatbots, some questioning will be there. Based upon the question answers, we are able to find out whether the particular person is affected or not, and based upon these we will take some actions. Okay, so when we go for the chat AI enabled chatbot, there are some ask doc will be there, that will develop by the bits planning. Similarly, some Google Cloud will be there. Google Cloud developed another the chatbot will be available. Thereafter, some Microsoft, I think, healthcare bot will be there, that is developed by the Microsoft, and then the WhatsApp bot also available, that will be provided by the Facebook. And beside the warehouse devices, for example, when we say that Apple Watch will be there, Apple Watch will be developed to find out the temperature of the bodies. And similarly, the we will say that a hollow wrist watch will be there, and next one is the wearable band will be developed, and wearable band that will developed by the Whoop company, and that will find out the respiratory rate of the particular person. When the respiratory rate is very high, and when we say that respiratory rate is abnormal, in that case we will say that that particular patient is infected. And similarly, when we go for the hollow wristwatch, and that particular hollow wrist watch that will be developed by the Proxys technology, and that will find out the social distancing. It means that when the one person is there, second person is there, and then 6 feet will be there, and that will be connected through the Bluetooth. In that case, that will maintain the social distancing. So a lot of the techniques and devices will be available during the screening of the COVID-19. Next one is the diagnosis and predictions. When we go for the COVID-19 diagnosis prediction, in that case, there are two type of the methods will be there: invasive and non-invasive. Invasive means either we have to go for the chest X-rays will be there, either we go for the chest CT scan will be there. Sometime we go for the ultrasound. Sometime we go for the MRI will be there. Non-invasive means, for example, one company that developed the AI for COVID-19 that will take the 2 second cough samples will of a particular persons, and based upon the cough samples, they will be identify that particular patient is infected or not. And that AI for COVID-19, the accuracy of this AI for COVID-19 is the 90%. Similarly, for example, one is the flu sense. That is a app will be developed that will take the cough and your that will be utilized. The kinetic depth camera will be there. Similarly, the some wearable devices that will be utilized, or all of these come under the non-invasive. When we say that invasive, it means that you have to go for the RT there, and either you have to go for the chest CT scan will be there, chest X-ray will be there. Non-invasive means we are not taking directly. That will be some another wearable devices that will be utilized in the non-invasive. When we say that some AI tools, a lot of the AI tools are available for diagnosis of the COVID-19. First one is the Beru teams that they have developed the linear fold, and the prediction time is very very less. There is 27 seconds will be there. In the China, that will develop the infravisions, that is the AI powered medical imaging tool will be there. And next one is the micro multicopter that will be developed, and that used to carry the medical samples from the congested areas. For example, some slum area will be there, and there is no possibility to we will provide very crowded area. In that case, we will be utilize the micro multicopters will be utilized. Sometime driven AI will be there. In that case, COVID-net will be there, and that will predict the COVID infection in the given chest ray. That is the software will be there. And micro multicopter, that is the hardware will be there. And similarly, the infravision, this is also the hardware will be there. Next one is the, for example, like QXR. This is the AI-based medical imaging, and we will just provide the CT scan, and that will be predict whether the particular person is infected or not. This is the software that is again the developed by the Mumbai-based Q.AI. Next one is the Insight CXR. There is a powerful chest X-ray analysis. Similarly, the CAT for COVID will be there. This is the software that detect the abnormality in our lungs. If some abnormality is there, it means that we are infected from the COVID. But always when we infected from the some cold, that is not always COVID, because the pneumonia will also infect your lungs. And when we find out that glass obesity will be present in our lungs, in that case we will say that the COVID will be present. And UVD will be there. Ultraviolet vision robots will be there that will be utilized to disinfected your rooms and communications. Okay, so in that case, the nursing staff will be no need to go the infected areas. In that case, that particular robot will be disinfect all the particular rooms. Beside it, that will also communicate with the persons. Next, in the Stanford University, that will develop some epic models. In that case, that will be predict whether you have to shift the particular person in the ICU or not. Similarly, some Johns Hopkins University that developed the health startup, Bayesian health startup will be there, and that developed the respiratory models. In that case, you have to check whether the particular patient is in coming hours or not. So based upon the respiratory models, and you have to check whether the particular person is require some ICU or not, or some special care is required or not. Next time we will go discuss about that invasive the techniques. This is a COVID-19 impact of the chest X-ray, like that some opacity will be there, and that particular area, that is the ground opacity will be there. It means that the chest X-ray, particular lungs that are infected from the COVID. When we go for this one, then all of these are the healthy predictions. When we like that, this is some pneumonia will be there at this part, at this part, at this part, that particular region and that particular region. Some pneumonia predictions will be there, and these are the COVID-19 predictions like that. Totally glass opacity will be present in that cases. So using the chest X-rays, and we will say that CT scan will be able, based upon these we are able to identify the particular person is infected or not. For example, this is the CT scan. This is the early stage. In that case, you have to find out that the single like that way, in like that way, this portion will be there, this portion will be there. It means that single or multi-level scattered, patchy, or we will say the great ground class opacity is present. When we go for the advanced stage, in that case, that particular region is extended in that particular portion, this particular portion, and this particular, that particular is extended here, that portion also is the advanced stage will be there. It means that the density of the bilateral lingual opacity will be increases in this image, and the area of the ground opacity as well as the condensation will be also high in the lungs. When we call the severe, it means that totally infected your lungs like that way. This one. After, for example, when we say that dissipation stage will be there, this is the dissipation stage. So these are the different stages of the COVID-19. And most of the times we have to, for analysis of the infection in the CT scan, in that case we go for the heat maps, and that will be easily identify the infected area in our lungs like that way. This is the infected part, this is the infected part, like that way. So like that way we will utilize the different infected part using some heat map methods. Next one is the we will detect the COVID-19 risk value prediction. In that case, you have to provide the CT scan slices. In that case, either you have to go for the coronal axis, either axle will be there, sagittal will be there, on which they, after that we will be apply the segmentation, and that particular segmentation is performed by deep learning techniques, and that will be provide either the risk level is high or not. Next one is the classification of COVID-19 using the radiological imaging techniques, or we will say medical imaging techniques. First, we will take the CT scan image that will be there. After that, we will be pre-processing. We will just remove all of these things remaining, that will maintain only that particular region. And for the household values will be there. And thereafter, we will apply the segmentation using some deep learning techniques. Thereafter, we will classify either it will be particular region is the COVID positive, COVID negative, or some other viral will be there. So image classification model will be applied, and then we will check the infection probability will be there. First one is the next one is the most of the times we will always go for the transfer. This is the transfer learning. Just a minute. Okay, next one, the deep transfer learning framework will be there. In the deep transfer learning framework, we always mentions that either you have to go for the CNN, either you have to go for the supervised, unsupervised, and transfer learning. Most of the times when you read out the publication, such publication, 90% papers will be the transfer learnings, because we will already developed models, and then only the last layer will be changed, and that will be softmax layer will be changed. After changing the software max layer, that will be able to classify the data set into the our COVID positive or negative in that case. Next one is the classification of COVID-19 patient using the chest CT images. In the chest CT image, first we apply taken the COVID-19 chest data, that will be applied on the pre-processing techniques. We will be remove the noise and some another missing values, and thereafter we will apply that particular into the deep learning framework. In that case, convolution will be there, some max pooling will be there, ReLU will be there. ReLU means activation function will be there, and most of the times either we will utilize the softmax layer will be there, and thereafter you have to go for the fully connected layers, and then you have to analyze the classifications. Okay, and that particular this is the particular paper is taken from the European Journal of the Clinical Microbiology and Infection Disease. This is our paper in which we have to apply the multi-objective differential evaluation. Actually, when we go for the CNN, directly go for the transfer learning, then the transfer learning is suffer from the hyperparameter tuning parameter. In that case, we have to optimize the parameter, and that particular parameter is optimized through some meta-heuristic technique. We have go for the multi-objective differential evaluation. In this paper, we have optimized the two different functions. First one is the specificity, next one is the sensitivity. In the we will say that sensitivity, that means you have to find out that actual true value will be true positive value will be required. And when we go for the specificity, in that case you have to find out that actually negative values will be there, that is correctly identified. It means that when we go for the sensitivity, it means that that is equal to the true positive divided by true positive plus true negative will be there. When we go for the, for example, the specificity, in that case that will be the true negative divided by true negative plus true positive will be there. So in that case we will be go for the multi-objective multi-objective differential evaluation will be utilized for the convolution neural networks, and that particular multi-objective differential to optimize these parameters, we apply the CNN values, and then we are able to classify. Next one is that particular present the results. That is the results of our the neural network will be there. ANN will be the artificial neural network. This is the adaptive neurophagy system will be there. Next one, that is the CNN result of the CNN, and that is the result of our modified CNN, or we will say the proposed approach. As we mentioned that the true positive value is 58, and we will find out that true negative value is 55. And when we go for the ANFI, in that case that value will be increased and true negative will be decreases. Similarly, when we hear the true positive is 60 and true negative is 56, when we modify, or we will say that CNN is modified through the modified multi-objective differential evaluation, we will say that the parameter is optimized. In that case, the true positive value is increased as well as the true negative value is increased. And beside these, the false negative and false positive will also reduce. It means that they are able to find out that appropriate results. Okay. Next one is that we have to find out the sensitivity and specificity between the proposed CNN, NFI, IS, and the ANN will be there. Then we will find out that proposed provide the higher value as compared to the ANN, as compared to the CNN, as well as the adaptive neurophagy infant system will be there. Next one, we have find out that ratio of the training data. Either we have in that case we have to find out when the training ratio of training data will be increases, then the accuracy will be also increases. But the accuracy of the proposed is very high as compared to the remaining ones, because in that case we will optimize the hyperparameters, and that particular parameters is directly related with our image data sets. Next one is our data set that in the training versus sensitivity and specificity will be analyzed. In that case, we are able to find out that true positive and true negative value will be high as compared to the other ones. Okay. Next one is the classification of COVID-19 using the chest CT images. In that case, we have applied the dense net 2001, the deep learning based networks, and only the CNN will be replaced with the dense 2000 net 2001. In that case, 2001 means the 201 means that particular number of the layers will be there, and 201 these are the number of hidden layers that will be utilized in our deep learning networks. So that particular paper is published in the Journal of Micro Biomolecular Structures and Dynamics in the Taylor Francis. And in that case, the CNN is removed with the densenet 201 will be there, and that will be produce the better results, because the CNN that will be take the less number of the hidden layers, and that will be capture the less local features. And this is the subsamples of the SARS-CoV-2 CT scan that will be utilized for the predictions. After that, we have identified that predicted we have find out predicted actual classes will be there, and we have find out that true positive and true negative value. Similarly, we have to find out the receiver operating characteristics. And we have compared the dense net with the VG16 inception net and the rest net 152, and in that case we are able to find out that accuracy is 99.82, but in that case the data is very limited because the log amount of the data is not available, and when you have to apply the particular deep learning on the small data set, in that case sometime overfitting will be over sometime it called the overfitting will be occurs. Okay, so in that case we will say that when we apply on the large data set, then the accuracy, there is possibility that there can be dip out. Next one is that particular innovation IRBM. In that case we have applied the exceptions. It means that extreme version or extended version of the inception, that for feature extraction, and that is the transfer method. In that case we will classify the COVID-19, pneumonia, and other disease. In that case, we will be utilize the chest X-rays. In the previous two techniques, we will go for the chest CT scan. But chest CT scan, in the chest CT scans, particular patient that will exposed to the high radiations. But in the X-rays, there is a low ionization radiation will be there. In that case, the patient is exposed to the less radiations, and when we go for some particular hospital, then most of the times the hospital will be contain some X-ray machines. But CT scan is very expensive machines, and a lot of the investment is required. So now we are working on, most of the researchers are working on the chest X-rays, and after analyzing the chest X-rays, we are able to predict whether the particular patient is affected or not. And in that case, we have compared with some number of the transfer learning models. First, we have compared with some machine learning models, sport vector machine, random forest, adaptive neurophagy info system, NFI will be there, CNN will be there, BGG net. In the BGG, we will go for the BGG 16. Then the residual net will be utilized. The 50 will be there, Google net, Inception net V3 will be there, and in that case, we will compare with the X exception extreme version of the inceptions, that will be provided the 99% accuracies, and 98% we will 0.98 is the F measure will be there. Sensitivity is again the 0.9 will be there, and specificity the 0.946 will be there. Okay, so these are some results that will be obtained. And next one, with testing analysis. During the testing analysis, we find that the proposed methods, the accuracy 97, and F measure is 0.96, sensitivity is 0.97, and specificity is 0.97. In that case, we have used the Kegel chest X-ray dataset will be utilized. And when we go for the how will you apply the deep learning, in that case, the particular commands will be there. For example, first you have to clear the space, clear all, and sometime we CLC will be utilized. After that, we will be store the data in the data paths. You have to mention the data path here. You have to modify the data depending upon your storage of the data. Thereafter, you have to use the image data store. In that case, like this is the image data store in the MATLAB. All of these are in the MATLAB. Image data store, then you have to mention the data path. Thereafter, you have to include all the subfolders. For example, you have to write, you have to make a particular directory that will contain the X-rays, and thereafter within this particular folder, you have to again divide it into two parts. For example, first one in the COVID a folder will be different, and normal folder will be different, and thereafter the some viral infection will be there. In that case, you have to different sub folder will be there. You have to include all the folders. In that case, we write here the include subfolder, and that will be true. And thereafter, we will check this if the labels will be present, then the label sources and folder names. After that, you will split up of this total splitting. That is, you have to count the each label depending upon your this data. For example, the COVID 25 images will be there. Some normal the 25 images will be there. So like that way, first we have to read the data, and thereafter you have to store the data using the image data store in the MATLAB, and then you have to split based on the labeling. That command is used count each label, then you have to provide the data store, and that will be automatically determine the split labels. Then you mention the COVID and normals, but you have to first labeling the data, and thereafter you have to numbers the how many images are present. In that case, you have to find out the length, that is equal to AMDS dot labels will be there. Then the that particular, for example, COVID, you have to labeling the COVID, you have to labeling the normal image, like that way. Already you have to find out. Then you have to visualize. For example, you have to visualize the images. In that case, randomly we will take some data. For example, we will random from will be utilize take the data input images. We will take the 6 images random. For example, we will put it at 10, then the 10 images will randomly taken from our image data store. We mention here the 6, it means that 6 images will be shown here. After that, we will write here the figures for id x, that is some variable will be there. You can also write a, b, c, whatever you want. That is equal 1, 2. Length, that is taken from this particular. And then you have to plot the figures. IM show will be there, then IM read, then apply the IMDS dot files, and then you have to mention the index numbers that will present. Then you, for that particular the titles, you have to write here that sprints percentages IMDS dot labels, that will be already mentioned in your the folders. Then prum dot idx will be there. So like that way you can visualize the image. Thereafter, you have to perform when we analyze. Yes, some data will be available and proper labeling will be present. In that case, you have to perform some data modeling. In that case, for first we'll go for the data augmentation, because data is very small. 25 is very less. But now at times the Kaggle contains a lot of the data you can take. But if the you want that performance is not depend upon your parameter, in that case augmentation will be applied. And most of the time when we go for the deep learning, in that case data augmentation will be applied. For the data augmentation, we will mention that image data augmenter, there is a particular function will be there. In that case, we will be mention the random rotation will be there, random reflection will be there. Similarly, the random x reflection and y reflection. Similarly, we will be x sharing will be there, y share will be there. So this type of the particular augmentation will be applied. Either rotate, we will say some splash will be there, like that way. Thereafter, we will be resize the data, because when we combine and we will rotate the data or images, in that case the dimension will be changed. And when we utilize a different deep learning architecture, in that case the your particular deep learning require the different size. For example, when we go for the ResNet, in that case you have to supply the 224 to 24. So in the depending upon the requirement of the deep learning architecture, you have to resize the images. In that case, we mentions that augmented image data store, that is the 224 and 224. Then you have to mentions that IMDS train will be there. Then you have to utilize the data augmentation will be there. Then you have to mention the augmenter. Okay, then thereafter you have to utilize the transfer training will be there. In that case, we will train the network model. This is more train the network. This is the function. Then you have to resizing information that will transfer here. Then you have to take the graph values and some other option you can take. After that, you have to resize again the resizing, because during the training, some possibility that the particular images will be not up to the appropriate level. In that case, again, we resize all the testing images. First, we apply the training, then apply the testing. And that particular randomly picking some data, that is the testing values, and the image data set for testing purpose. Thereafter, you have to check that particular training, and their labels will be there, and you have to classify. Then you have to apply the net transfer. This is the training model will be there. After training will be completed, then apply these testing data on that case. Then we will classify the data, and thereafter we will save the data. And after that, if we have to clear, in that case we will write the command to clear the unnecessary variables. This is the during the training and testing. In that case, model losses will be generated during the execution of the program. Thereafter, you have to compute the performance analysis. In that case, you have to first compute that confusion matrix. For example, actual labels will be present, MDS dot labels present. Thereafter, we have also predict some labels that will be present, and based upon these, we will plot the confusion matrix. And the function is the plot confusion will be there. And based upon these, first pass the actual label and then pass the predicted labels that will be predicted from our trained models. And after that, we will be train the design this confusion matrix, like that COVID 25 will be there, normal will be 0, and like that way. For example, we have passed the 50 images. In that case, we are mentions that that particular 25 COVID will be there, and again the normal one is also considered as a one values, and 25 normal value is computed. It means that that particular normal value is treated as a abnormal, so we will say that false value will be theirs. Okay. Next one, we will you have to find out that receiver operating characteristics. For draw the receiving operating characteristics, you have to mention the test level that is equal to double of the normal nominals INDMS labels will be there. After that, for representing this graph, you have to use that particular function. Pref curve will be there, and in that case, you have to pass the test labels and posterior values, and based upon these we will plot that false positive rate and true positive rate will be theirs, and that will be draw. Okay, so these are the some MATLAB codes will be theirs, and based upon these we will analyze the receiver characteristics. We will draw the confusion matrix, and how we will train the data, how we will test the data, like that way. And based on these we will actually classify, means class activation mapping will be there, there is actual COVID will be there, and we are able to find out the probability. Next one is the drug discovery. I think 10 minutes are left. And drug discovery, in that case, the drug discovery that is divided into the two main parts. First one in the invasive various host interaction. It means that we will design some drugs. And next one is that invasive interaction among the coronaviruses and drugs will be there. In the second one, we are go for the drug repurposing. It means that when the existing drugs will be available, in that case we will be check whether that particular existing drugs that will be combat that coronavirus or not. This is the we have to find out the interaction with the coronavirus and drugs. In the invasive virus host interaction, it means that first we have to find out some structures of the coronavirus. In that particular case, we will say that alpha fold model will be there to predict the structure of the 6 proteins that is related to our coronaviruses, and and for that alpha fold model, that will be utilized the diluted ResNet, and that particular diluted ResNet will be are able to find out the distance between the different angles of the 6 proteins. Similarly, the Google DeepMind will be defined a particular section that will develop the AlphaGo program to predict the structure of the viruses. Actually, we will say that when we go for the traditional system, then at least 1 year is required for the analysis of the molecular structures, and 4 to 5 years is required to develop some new drugs. But for the deep learnings techniques, we will be that will reduce the times. But for example, in the reinforcement learnings, that will be able to predict some potential compound that are combat that particular coronavirus. Similarly, LSTM models that will be utilized on the smile dataset to screen the 900 millions compound from the zinc, and that will be listed the 30,000 compound that will be able to design some effective drugs. So like that way we are able to predict either will be utilize the new drugs, drug will be there, and either will be drug reproposing will be there. And next one is this is the whole scenario of the different drug target networks will be there, and then how we will be check whether that particular virus will be effect. Then we will take some drugs transcripts will be there. There is a we will just skip, so less time will be available. And next one, drug synergy prediction will be there, because drug synergy means a efficient combination of the drugs is required. When we give the one drugs, and for example it may be effective for the one person, and there will chances that that particular drugs will be not effective for the another person. In that case, combination of the drugs will be given, and in that case drug synergy prediction is required for our COVID-19. For that case, we will just load that drug synergy data sets, and in that case we will find out that synergy score. After that, we will decompose in the training and testing will be there. Then they divide the data set into the first 9 chunk and 10 chunk. In the 9 chunk, we will find out the train the model using some drugs. For example, we will be combination of the two drugs will be there, and Upon these drugs, we will be take some input features, and then you have to find out that particular synergy score. That will be target class. And after the particular this particular 9 chunk, you have to check the validation of the 10th chunk. And if the epochs will be finished, then it's okay, and we will predict the drug score, drug synergy scores. And again, for the testing methods, you have to again take the particular separate synergy score from the data set, and then we check whether the predicted score and actual score are similar or not. Or based on these training, we will be apply these particular trained model on our the unknown drugs. And most of the times, AI based ventilator will be there, and based on the needs, and they will be analyze the different features and parameters of the given patients. Is the most of the time AI based ventilator will be utilized. Similarly, the AI based robotics based and sanitization will be there, because some infected area will be there. In that case, when the people go for sanitizations and some disinfected the room, in that case the chances that the person is infected, in that case AI based robotics sanitization will be utilized. Next one is that robotic nurses to provide the drugs. We will say that robots will be utilized to provide the drugs, and they will communicate with the persons. And this is the roles of the robotics. Now the robots are utilized for the. Just a minute. We'll just play.
Security patrol in Tunisia's capital. This one, dubbed Robocop, is guarding empty streets, ensuring no one breaks the lockdown imposed.
So now the robots are used for different areas. So this is a mask coverage. We will analyze whether the particular person is wearing the mask or not. So the mask wearing classification, this is again the data sciences technique will be utilized. And next one is the we just show the some impact of the COVID-19 on some e-learning, because the in COVID situation, most of the schools, colleges, they are shut down during the lockdown periods, and some infected time. In that case, e-learning is widely utilized in our college, universities, and somewhere else. And thereafter we will also check the impact of the COVID-19 on the physical and mental health. Thereafter the air pollutions and environment impact of the COVID-19 on the environment, as well as we will identify some impact on our the economics and share market also. And first one is the impact of the COVID-19. We have analyzed the COVID-19 effect on our e-learning systems, and that paper is published by my teams in the big data mining and analytic in the IEEE. And in that case, in that particular paper, we analyze the effect of the e-learning on the public health and environment during the lockdown times. And we have find out that that will reduce the impact on the air as well as the forest. For example, when go for the e-learning systems, in that case, we will the report will mention by the University of the Cambridge, that will mention that 350 millions cartridges become dead every years, and that will take that 1000 years are required to decay these cartridges. Similarly, when we go for the digitalization, or we will say that online system, in that case we will not go for the hard copies, and now the ministry will also say that less utilize that hard copy. Most of the times, most of the work will be done on the e-offices and some emails or like that way. So when the necessary, when the most necessary required, in that case you have to go for the hard copy. So in that case, that air is more yeah, but pure during the lockdown time, or we will say that when the traveling is very restricted. In that case, the positive impact is found on the forest as well as air also. but some implications will be find out on health also. For example, when the student is always teaching through the online system, in that case the teacher, when we will say that students are the mentally depressed, or sometime we will say that that will be suffer from the sleep deprivation will be there, and the due to the submission of the assignments, when we will say that the assignment is submission is very near, in that case that suffer from the sleep deprivation will be there. And most of the times the students will be sit on the computers and their laptops, on their electronic gadget. In that case the strain, eye strain, they will suffer from the eye strain, as well as the muscle injury will be there, because the physical activities totally we will say that 90% stop will be there. In that case the implication will be go on our health also. And during that particular in this pandemic situation, there's a lot of the e-learning tools will be there. Either Diksha will be there, e-Parshala, National Repository of the Open Education, NPTEL will be there, Swam will be there, e-Mantra, Yantra will be there. And similarly, we will go for the different audio and meeting tools. Either Zoom, Loom, some Skype will be there, GoTo meetings. Blue Jeans will be there. Thereafter, the WebEx will be there. Then the Google Meet will be there. Like that, with different tools are available for the audio and video meetings, and some decision and collaboration boards is available. Similarly, when we store transfer the files, in that case either you will be utilize the Dropbox will be there, either you have to go for the net cloud will be there. In that case we will when for example you have to write your document on the online mode. In that case, when you go for the latex, in that case overleaf will be there, and in which your data will be stored, and when you go for some way another way you will utilize. Similarly, document representation, G Suite will be available, PG will be available, Gitbook will be there, and Confluence will be there, and Office 365, Adobe Acrobat. Like that way, different tools are available for the e-learnings. Thereafter, we will perform some case study whether the e-learning is effective or not during the normal time, or either it is effective only the this pandemic situation. In that case, we have conduct this survey in our NIT Hamirpur, and we have to find out what is the best feature of the Google Classroom, because at that particular pandemic time we are go for the Google Classroom. In that case, we have find out that is 43% people that will say that user interface is very good, quality service is good for 56%, price point is 6.3%, and the best feature is easy accessibility is the 81%, because Google Classroom is content is very easily accessible. Similarly, we have to find out what whether the online education tool or method will be you prefer. In that case, 81% that prefer the pre-recorded lecture via the YouTube links, and similarly some 43% that will be mentions that the pre-recorded lectures via the Google Drive, and 18% will be there that live lecture using some online mode. So most of the people will be go for the pre-recorded lectures via the YouTube links will be there, and that particular case study will be performed on the MTech student, master level students. And thereafter we will analyze the e-learning tools. We will think, do you think the few new features of the online education should be added in our daily to day-to-day basic education? In that case, we have to analyze that in the NIT 68% student will ask that we will utilize the online education in our day-to-day basic education. And we have also performed some case study on the TIT Patiala, Thapa Institute of Engineering and Technology Patiala. In that case, 50%, less than 50% that will say that the e-learning will be utilized in the daily life. So the different scenario will be there. Thereafter, we will be analyze the COVID-19 effect on our urban health and the environment. In that case, we will analyze the different patterns from the images taken from the NASA, and that will be available on the different websites. And we have analyzed that during the COVID-19, the air pollution is greatly reduced, and that our team will publish the effect of COVID-19 outbreak on the public health and environment. On the journal name is the Air Quality, Atmosphere and Health in the Springer. And this is the pictures before the COVID-19, and this is after the COVID-19. It is the end of the April when the lockdown is imposed. and thereafter we will analyze the different patterns of the air pollutions. Then Los Angeles will be there. In that case, the PM 2.5 and NO2 will be both reduced after they have imposed. This dash line is mentioned that lockdown is imposed by a particular country, and then we will say that these are greatly deep. Similarly, that particular map will be taken from the northern India. We will impose the lockdown begin the March 25th. In that case, we find out that the label of the PM 2.5 and nitrogen that will be greatly reduced. So the journey is 1,000 miles, begin with a single steps. There's a lot of the limit area in which we will apply that data sciences. But that data sciences is not just we will say that limitation. There is a limitation of the data science. First one is the data set is limited, because when we say that the Kaggle, there is also the limited data will be available. So first limitation of the data science to combat the COVID-19 is the data limitations. Second point we will always mentions that correctness of the result. For example, when you go for some RT-PCR test and some other test, sometime we will say that I will COVID positive, and when we go for some another laboratory, in that case that will be say that no, you are not COVID positive, you are COVID negative. In that case, the correctness of the results is again a big questions, because when the data is not correct, in that case data science technique cannot be applied. So the correctness of the results is again the question marks, because the correct results is not available till now. Next is the security and privacy. When we go for the contact tracing, the different mobile apps will be developed, and we will say that software will be available. In that case, the patient information should be secure, and that will be privacy should be maintained. When the security will be no, we will say that the patient information will be shared with someone else, and we will say that security is breached and privacy is not maintained. This is again the main problem. Next one, we will say that multidisciplinary collaboration is required. We always say that deep learning will be applied. Either we apply the ResNet, we will apply the DenseNet 201. Sometime we will say that exception that we apply. This is just the black box, because until or unless we will not collaborate with the biotechnology and some our doctors and medical practitioners, in that case we will not say that our model is efficient, we are going in the right direction. So multidisciplinary collaboration is required. Until or unless we will not say that our results is correct. Okay, this is a hypothetical result, we will say. Next one, we will say that new data modality is required, because we have applied that deep learning techniques and machine learning techniques, AI techniques in our X-rays and CT scan, but most of the techniques are not explored. For example, MRI, there is a less radiation will be exposed, and the soft tissue can be very well captured in the MRI. But till now we are not able to apply this deep learning technique on the MRI data, because MRI data is not available. Similarly, ultrasound images are very good as compared to our the CT scan, and as compared to our chest X-ray, because there is a less radiation is also will be there, and in that case patient will be exposed to the low ionized radiation. So the new dimensionality of the data we have to expose. Okay, so the data science, a lot of the work is required. These are some references. Thank you. If you have any question, you can ask. Evaluation matrix is best suited for this case. Most of the times we are go for the prediction is the kappa statics will be there. Sometime we will go for specificity will be there. Sometime we will go for the sensitivity will be there, and F measure will be there. A lot of the matrices will be there, and now the deterioration index will be introduced. So a lot of the evaluation metrics will be there for prediction, the chest X-ray, and we will say that CT scan. Okay, thank you so much.